Hello friends, today I am starting the lecture series of the boards and the very first lecture I have taken from the 12th standard NCERT book, and this chapter is inverse trigonometric functions. So before I start this inverse trigonometric functions, I'll tell you. Firstly, you remember the domain and the range of all these trigonometric functions. The sin x domain is all real number, range is -1 to 1, close interval. Cos x domain is all real number, range is -1 to +1. Tan x domain is all real number except the odd multiples of pi by 2. And the domain is all real numbers. Range is all real numbers. Cot x domain is real minus n pi, the multiples of pi, and the range is all real numbers. Sec x is all real minus odd multiple of pi by 2, and the range is -infinity to -1 close, union 1 to infinity. Cosec x domain is real minus multiples of pi, and the range is same as that of sec x. So this is what we already know about these trigonometric functions. And now we are going to study the inverse trigonometric functions. So first I'll tell you how we form the inverse functions there and what are the prerequisite conditions in order to get the inverse of any function. If you go back to those functions, you know, if I write y is equals to fx is any function, different kinds of mappings we studied at that time, and we know that 1 to 1 and many to 1. These are the two different kinds of mapping for the functions. Means we write one input and the one certain output we get. And there are certain functions where the different output gives the same, different inputs give the same output. As I take a function fx is equals to sin x. We know if x I write is equals to 0, the sign of 0 value is 0. When I write x is equals to pi, we get sin pi and the sin pi's value is also 0. Similarly, sin 3 pi, 4 pi, any multiple of pi, if I substitute x, the sin x's answer is 0. So this kind of a mapping is many to one kind of mapping. We know all these trigonometric functions after 2 pi, they always give the same values. Why they always give the same values? Let's say I take a circle there. And this angle I define some theta, or I take this angle is in radians, it's x. So if I try to define, let's say this radius is 1 unit. So you can see if I want to define this, the sin x there, so that height, whichever height, let's say this height is h, and this radius I have taken as a 1. So this sin x's value I'll get h by 1, that is h. And again you will notice the same height I'll get there when I rotate this angle by pi minus x, because this angle will become x now. So I'm talking about pi minus x. But it'll come back again, you will see. So I'm talking about in totality for all kinds of trigonometric functions. After every 2 pi, for all the values of x, we can write that sine of 2 pi plus x is equals to sin x. So after completing one cycle, that is 360 degrees or 2 pi, you will start getting the same values. And it is not only true for the sin x, it is also true for the cos x, tan x, cot x, sec x and cosec x. Because if I rotate there, now I want to define the cos x there. So again this divided by this, again I will get, if I again rotate by 360 degree, I reach at that point. I want to define the tan x, so this divided by this much. Again the same triangle formation I'll get if I rotate here by 360 degree and I reach at that point. So we can observe this, all these trigonometric functions are many to one functions. Now, when we study function, there are two different kinds of mappings are there in order to define any function. That is one to one and many to one. So when I'm reversing this thing, means how do we get the inverse of any function? Let's say in any function you substitute alpha as an input and the corresponding answer you get beta. So I want to make the inverse of that. So what will happen in that case? I will write beta as an input and then alpha has to be the output. So whatever the answers which you are getting in the f of x, in the inverse function of that, which is f inverse of x, those inputs will become, those outputs will become the input for the f inverse of x, and the input of fx will become the output of f inverse of x. Means domain and range are now interchanged. So when the many to one kind of a formation is there and you are doing the inverse function, what you will do in that case? You will make one to many. And for your kind information, you all remember even that one to many kind of mapping can never be a function, because we always know from the definition of the function, for the one input there has to be one unique, real and finite output. What is the rationale of a studying function? That we are sure about what the answers we are getting. So that's why we have considered that the one to many formation cannot be a function there. So many to one kind of a formation is there. So for that we cannot find the inverse of the function. And we already know we can find the inverse of any function which is 1, 1 on 2 in nature. But now what will happen? All these trigonometric functions are many to one. So we'll talk about it. So we know that so now one important thing, that all the trigonometric functions are many to one. This one important observation we have. Clear? And one more important thing is that one to many cannot be a function. Okay? Okay, one more thing I'll tell you. When we study the functions, this we write as a domain and this is a codomain. So whatever we write in the domain, it must have an image in codomain. Here we can leave certain amount of element there. There is no compulsion is there that we will write all the elements which are defined there. We can write the few extra elements there. So that is not in the case of codomain. But when we are doing the inverse function, let's say this is the fx there. But when we are studying the inverse of that function, this codomain will become the domain. Means that whatever is written there, it will come here, and whatever is written there will go there. We already know that each of the element which is written there is defined. And in the codomain, I told you there is no restriction we are finding the function. There is no restriction. You can leave certain amount of elements in the codomain which are not defined from the elements of the domain. So if the same thing exactly I want to write it here, let's say two elements are there, x and y are there, or a and b are there, which are not defined. If I try to write that a and b, so in that case I cannot define those a and b, because we never know from where a, b we are getting, because these are the two elements which are not defined from the elements of the domain of the function. So if I have written few of the extra elements in the domain there, which was a codomain for the f of x, while finding the inverse of that, I have used those two AB, and I cannot match any of the element of the codomain, and this domain has come here for the inverse function. So we cannot match any of the element, but we already know that anything if I write in the domain, it must be defined. So that way what we will do, we are forced to write those elements in the codomain of the fx which are defined from the domain of the fx. And that in that category, we two different kind of a function we have already studied. That function has to be into and onto. What are the into function? If at least one of the element of the codomain is not defined, the function is said to be into. If all the elements of the codomain are defined, we say the function is onto. So now that case, the third thing which I am going to take, that 1, 1 onto has to be the condition if I want to get the inverse of any function. So these are the three things are there which we have to keep in the mind. The very first thing, that all the trigonometric functions are many to one kind of a function. The second is that the one to many cannot be a function. And the third one, 1, 1 onto, is a condition for the existence of the inverse of any function. Firstly, we defined that the function that it's a special kind of a relation having unique, finite and real output. But when we are finding the inverse of that function, we have confirmed that it has to be 1, 1 onto. Okay. So now these three things we are going to apply in the inverse trigonometric functions. And some kind of a changes we are going to study there. So first I take the sin x. Y is equals to sin x. If you plot the graph of a sin x, this kind of a graph you will keep getting, because after every 2 pi again you will get the same answer. It's a minus pi, it's a 0. This is pi by 2. There you will get it. Minus pi by 2, the answer is minus 1. This is pi. This is 3 pi by 2. And this is 2 pi like that. You will keep getting like that. So now you can see, obviously it is not a 1, 1 function, it's a many to one function. So in order to study the inverse of these trigonometric functions, we have defined a certain domain there. That there we are going to study the inverse of these trigonometric functions. Because for all the expansion of sin x, we cannot use that thing. Because so many other means this height I will not get at one point, rather I will get at the infinite many points I will be getting this height. So when I am trying to set this height for what x I will be getting, you have infinite many answers. So what's the rationale of studying the functions? How can you study the function? So that time you corrected yourself when you are studying those relations. That a special kind of a relations we are going to study, where each time we must have a finite answer and define one answer. But here you see the same height I will be getting at infinite point, and I want to ask at what point I am getting this height. You have so many x at this height, this at this point again, so many points you will get there. So that's why we have defined that for the inverse functions, inverse trigonometric function, we will be studying the inverse under a certain domain, and this domain is called the principal domain. We are not going to study the inverse of the trigonometric function everywhere. Rather, we have decided that under a certain domain we are going to study the inverse function, and that domain is called the principal domain. For each of the trigonometric functions, we have defined a certain domain that where we are going to study the inverse of that particular function. Now see, here you see the domain for the sin x, we took the all real number, and the range is -1 to +1. And the logic behind taking the principal domain for the sin x is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, you can see that all the numbers I will be getting at pi by 2 you get the height 1. This is a point pi by 2 comma 1. At minus pi by 2 you are getting the height is minus 1. So which is minus pi by 2 comma minus 1. So all the answers which I can get from the sin x I will definitely be getting between minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. So that is very logically we have defined that this is the principal domain we are going to keep for the sin x. Similarly for the cos x, I will write you the domain for the sin, cos. And so first I will take today sin and cos and define everything for that. So for the sin x, the principal domain I have taken where we are going to study the inverse of that is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Close interval. For the cos x, we have taken 0 to pi. There we will be studying the inverse of cos x function. For the tan x, we take from minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. For the cot x, we have taken open interval 0 to pi. So first I will explain all these four and then I will come to the sec x and cosecant x. So now we are going to take the sin x and sin x's inverse function we are going to form. So fx is equals to sin x. The principal domain which we have defined in order to study the inverse of sin x, that is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. So domain is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2 for the sin x to study the inverse of sin x. And the range is, we all know all the values will get from minus 1 to plus 1. Now I am studying the inverse of that fx is equals to sin inverse of x. So whatever the answers which we are getting for the sin of x will become the domain for sin inverse of x. So this domain is minus 1 to plus 1 for the sin inverse. And the range is minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. So when we are studying the inverse of the sin of x, the domain for the sin inverse of x will become minus 1 to plus 1 and the range will become minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. Means any answer of the sin of x is not going to be more than 90 degree nor it's going to be less than minus 90 degree. And one thing you can also observe about the inverse functions there. If I write the alpha as an input in any fx and we get the answer as a beta, what will happen in the inverse of that function? We will write beta as an input and the answer will get alpha. And if we talk about these alpha, beta and beta alpha, one interesting observation you can see that if I get the midpoint of alpha, beta and beta alpha, that will find alpha plus beta by 2, comma beta plus alpha by 2. So the midpoint of these two, this is a point which lies on the f of x. This is a point which lies on the inverse of f of x. So I write it as f inverse of x for this fx. So alpha beta is a one point in the f of x, beta alpha is another point which lies in the f inverse of x corresponding to that. And the midpoint of these two is alpha plus beta by 2, comma beta plus alpha by 2. Which is a point where you can observe that the abscissa and the ordinate both are same. Means this point will lie on the line y is equals to x. So fx and f inverse x are always symmetric about the line y is equals to x. So I will be using that concept while drawing the graphs of the sin inverse x and all the other inverse trigonometric functions. So now we come to the cos and we will find the inverse of that cos. So I'll also tell you quickly about the graph of the sine inverse of x. So I just explained you that fx and f inverse x are always symmetric about the line y equals to x. So first I'll draw the line of, this is a line of y is equals to x passing through origin, and then we plot the sine inverse of sine x's graph. First I'll plot. So something this kind of a graph will get for the sine of x, and this point will be minus pi by 2 comma minus 1. This point is pi by 2 comma 1. So you know that fx and f inverse x are symmetric about the line y is equals to x. So the pi by 2 comma 1 will become 1 comma pi by 2 somewhere here. Minus pi by 2 comma minus 1 will come somewhere here, which is minus 1 comma minus pi by 2. So it was going flat there, so you can observe it will be slightly vertical there, and this is the way you'll get. This yellow one is the sine inverse x's graph. It was flat, it should sin x is at the pi by 2, you see that the derivative of the sin x becomes 0 at pi by 2, so that time it was flat and it will be slightly vertical over there. So this is the graph of sine inverse of x you'll get. And the domain is, you know, the domain is restricted between minus 1 to plus 1 now, and the range is pi by 2 to minus pi by 2. Now I'll quickly come to the cos of x. Fx is equals to cos x. Domain here is 0 to pi. So for the f inverse of x, which is cos inverse of x, domain here, principal domain we say, it's a 0 to pi, close interval, range minus 1 to plus 1. So here you see the domain of cos inverse of x will become minus 1 to plus 1, and the range will be 0 to pi. Means while finding the inverse of cos, any answer you will not get more than 180 degree and less than 0 degrees. So cos x's graph, if you see, between 0 to pi. So cos x graph is between 0 to pi. At x is equals to 0 you get 1. At pi by 2 you will get 0, and at pi you will get minus 1. So this is a graph of the cos x you will get. This is pi by 2. This point is pi. And now we know fx and f inverse x are symmetric about the y is equals to x line. So this is a line of y is equals to x. This is a point is 0 comma 1. So while finding the inverse of 0 comma 1, that is alpha beta will become beta alpha. This is pi by 2, which is 1.57. Just before that somewhere here we'll get 1. So this is 1 comma 0. Clear? And this point is pi comma minus 1. So you'll get minus 1 comma pi somewhere here. This pi by 2 comma 0, this point is pi by 2 comma 0. So 0 comma pi by 2, somewhere here you'll get 0 comma pi by 2. Alpha beta becomes beta alpha. It's very easy to understand. So the graph will go like this and it will end up here. So this is a graph of cos inverse of x. Domain and range, you all understood. So rest of the tan x and the cot x and their inverse, sec x and cosecant x and their inverse, I'll be dealing in the next lecture. In the next lecture we'll also be taking the problems of the first exercise of NCERT textbook. Bye-bye.